Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Just want to jump in here. This is a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk. This is actually going to be the audio recording from a Facebook Live that our team is doing every single day, Monday through Friday, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in our Facebook private group. You can get in that group at teachbettergroup.com or go on to Facebook and just search Teach Better Team. You'll see our page and then you'll see the group. Get in there. So here we go, a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk pulled from one of our Facebook Live videos in our private group at teachbettergroup.com. Hope you enjoy.
It's Ray from the Teach Better team, and I am with Liz, and we are going to have so much fun on this morning's daily drop-in, which we are able to do every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern, and this is our last week, so we kind of saved the best for last because I was so excited that you were joining us, Liz. I know that this was an early wake-up time for you.
Yes, but being up and ready to go is awesome. And I'm usually up and ready to go by 8 a.m., but not always necessarily having hair done and everything.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, sometimes if I know I'm hosting the daily drop-in with somebody else, it's like you got to wake up a little earlier to get dressed. Otherwise, this is a really nice way to kind of roll out of bed and listen to the daily drop-in. Absolutely true. These episodes actually become bonus episodes of our Teach Better Talk podcast. You can find them saved on YouTube. And now this week, we've been trying to do something special where we are not only keeping these exclusive in our private Facebook group, which you can join at teachbettergroup.com, but we're actually streaming right now on Twitter, YouTube, and then our Facebook page and our Facebook group. So we're going to get quite the crew in this morning, which is perfect because I know that you are going to have so much to share. Would you mind kind of giving us, if people aren't connected to you, kind of your background, education? Tell us a little about yourself.
Absolutely. So first off, thanks for having me on. It's so fun to be here because I've been able to see so many of these. So first off, I have taught in the classroom for 15 years of elementary teaching. So I absolutely love being in the classroom and working directly with my own students. And then after those 15 years, I decided I wanted to have a different impact. And so I've gone into an instructional coaching and technology integration specialist role. So it's like this dual role where I get to do lots of different things with teachers. So, and just being able to be in the classroom supporting teachers is just a love of mine. And then, of course, I also have a book out of Take the Leap, Ignite a Culture of Innovation. And that's all about supporting teachers too, and being able to take on some different ways that we can innovate in the classroom, but ultimately, how do we create the culture to do so?
Yeah. So you're talking author, instructional coach, tech support, classroom teacher. I mean, you have done a ton to support educators. And your book, I know, is something I hear people talking about all the time. When did that come out? Oh, can you still hear me? Can't hear me. Bummer. Here, let me see if I can adjust that. How about now? Any better? Can you hear me? Anything yet?
No? Okay, I'm going to try to take out my AirPods and go this way. Okay, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, well, no worries. I'm glad that we got you back. And this is perfect because we have our family here. They're all coming in and saying good morning. So no stress.
I'm working fine, and then they just no sound. So I'm like, what was that?
Well, I'm glad you can hear me. Dave is saying I can hear you. So I'm glad that our audience can hear us too. Getting a lot of thumbs up, which is wonderful. I was saying, you're an author, you're an instructional coach, a tech coach. You've been in the classroom. I mean, you are doing so much to support teachers all the time. And your book is something that I see popping up still all the time that people are reading. When did the book come out?
Oh gosh, the book came out over a year ago. So yep, right at the beginning of January, a year ago. So it's been out a while now, but I think there's a lot of things that can be built with it because there is so much about not just culture, but how do you empower learning? How do you create authentic learning experiences, which I think also apply even now with remote teaching and learning, and ultimately how we bring it all together so that students reach their full potential and teachers too, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a great book right now to do a book study around. I mean, obviously this is a perfect time for teachers to be picking up their next book, but it's available, I assume, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, kind of all those typical places.
It sure is. You can get it anywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. So yeah, easy to pick up.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. So you've kind of had, I'm sure, a big shift in schools moving from in the classroom to a remote setting, because as a coach, especially in a district, I'm sure your teachers have kind of leaned on you to provide some support and some assistance, not only in instruction, but also in technology. So how has it been the last few months for you?
Things are going really well now. I would say at the beginning, it was crazy. So I actually work for an organization that services 21 districts within the region. So we have a really broad reach. And then we're kind of assigned to different districts. So I'm assigned to a city school district. And we had a lot of great things going with technology when it comes to one-to-one and everything. But it wasn't rolled out to all grade levels yet. And then, of course, there's still a huge learning curve for different teachers. So it was crazy the first couple of weeks, just trying to help everybody get up and running. But, seeing teachers take things on was just so inspiring, because you saw so many teachers who were hesitant and unsure of what it would look like. And they just boldly stepped forward and really embraced what they had to do best for their students.
No, and that's so important. Did you find that there was like a common question that came up really early on that you feel like was a victory that people started kind of getting the answers to and maybe are asking less now because they feel confident?
Well, I think that one was just the basics of how to use learning management systems. So, that's a huge one. But I would say the next biggest question was, how do I connect with my students? The technology piece and how to do everything so that you can function is absolutely important. But what teachers and students miss most are those connections. So just looking at, how can I meet with my students face to face, and how do I offer enough opportunities for them to join in if they can't join at a particular time. So I think that's been huge for teachers, and it's been a success because more teachers are able to report that they're seeing their students jump on and be able to connect and do other things with them. So in addition to focusing on that content and all that, you want the kids to continue learning, they understand the importance of really looking at, how do we create the relationships? How do we support them with social emotional learning still, which just makes my heart happy.
No, that is absolutely a huge victory. And I actually would love to get to some specifics in that if you don't mind. But it's funny, we've been doing these daily drop-ins every morning since I think March 16th, which is kind of when this big wave of, schools choosing to move to remote learning kind of started happening. And it's been funny going back and seeing the different conversations we were having then than the conversations that we're having now. So I'm sure a lot of educators kind of feel right now that they have their tips and tricks in terms of technology, and hopefully have started to, really feel like they're still building those relationships with students. But did you hear anything that teachers were doing just off the top of your head that you were like, oh, this seemed to work really well?
Well, I think that some of them, I think it's all about making sure, first of all, you have a consistent platform that parents and students can access. Like, that's very important. But what I've loved is that people have become more creative. So instead of just sending a PDF or a PowerPoint or anything like that, like, not only are people creating interactive videos and providing times to connect on Zoom, which I think is great too, but then people have been using things such as Flipgrid just as a fun way for students to demonstrate their thinking and their understanding. But it's also one thing that I always really try to help teachers remember is that as much as we want them demonstrating their learning, we know how important learning is, but how can we also use Flipgrid to get kids engaging, to be able to share and connect with one another? As a mom of two boys myself, that's one of the things I think that they have missed so much, is just being able to connect with their classmates. Yeah. So being able to still share just what's going well, and having those questions that they can reflect on, almost like having, in my classroom when I was teaching, we would do responsive classroom, and we would do circle times to open the day, we would close the day. And so looking at how we can do that online, even if it's in a completely modified way, is still so great for kids to bring people together and feel like they have a launching point to their day, or something within their day where they can really connect.
Completely. I mean, I've completely seen that, even just my own students. I'm a full-time 6th grade math teacher, and we've been doing like an open meeting. Anybody can welcome to join. at 1:15 every single day. And this week we're doing Spirit Week. So every single time we come on the video, there's some sort of theme and something goofy we're talking about. And it's been so fun. We've been getting more students tuning in and a lot more giggles because there's kind of a little bit of a purpose. There's a routine. There's some consistency, and people are very much enjoying that. It's just been fun. Like kind of at the end of my school day, like we're technically needing to be available until 2:00, but for a lot of my students, they're not getting up until like 12. So it's their morning. So it's been good.
That's awesome. It reminds me of, I saw a friend of mine, she posted her son and they were having costume day. So the kids were all in costumes and connecting with each other on Zoom. So that was so cute too.
It's so cute. Dave just put a perfect comment. I totally agree. He says, you do a great job online helping people like me, people who want to dabble but don't want to break the internet, feel comfortable taking chances. And that's just one of the many things I've heard, the support that you continue to provide, not only the educators in your district, but, educators online too. You're doing a lot of different things to support people that are all across the country, which is so powerful.
It is powerful. And I think, it's always that balance between supporting people and then now at this point, having your kids home that you're supporting. And then my husband's a building principal. So, he's working and supporting teachers. So I feel like our whole day is like everybody's on different Zooms and we're just trying to do everything that we can. So, it's always, to me, it's like the highlight of my day to be able to connect with teachers and to be able to hear the progress that they're making, or even to hear the troubles or struggles they're facing, because that's always gives you so much insight into what work do we all need to do together. Because it's such important work.
No, you're absolutely right. There's been a few comments so far. I know we're streaming right now on Twitter and YouTube, 2 places on Facebook. Our goal is just to really bring people in, hopefully set the tone for the day for our daily drop-in, especially since this is our last week. I'm so sad that we are going to be doing our daily drop-ins together. We have a lot of people commenting right now in the comments kind of from all over, sharing about how valuable it is to have your students show your face and share their voice so that you can, have those authentic connections versus using Flipgrid versus always connecting, via text. It's just very different, which we've actually talked a lot about in our daily drop-in sessions, not only with our communication with students, but also teachers' communication with parents, wanting to make sure we incorporate that video and audio element as well. So just lots of options for teachers to stay connected.
There are a lot of options. And I think that's you hit on something that you said when you mentioned the importance of hearing voices, which I know we're talking about, and seeing faces. Had other people share that their own children haven't seen or heard from classmates in so long. And a lot of that, and of course, that there's no ill intention. I always want to be clear on that it's never a knock or ill intention to any teacher, because we have to remember that it's not like schools planned for years, this beautiful rollout of remote teaching and learning. Like, it was thrown on people and people didn't anticipate it. So we have a lot of teachers who are in different places, and giving that grace is so important. And then, so giving grace to one another is important, but then also looking at, okay, now how do we provide those opportunities? So in a lot of that, in my way of how I support teachers, is looking at that, how we can support them and not make people feel bad for that, but just keeping that in mind, that if any teachers are listening and they're out there, just looking at how we could connect with students. And even if we can't use Zoom, I know that Zoom has been an issue, there's still ways that we can create videos. So you can screen record in anything from PowerPoint, you can use Flipgrid. There's so many ways that you can create short videos just to say hi and pop in and have those conversations with students.
No, absolutely. And it's so important that you choose to do that. That's been a big push that I've been encouraging everybody to do that, even if it's uncomfortable on camera. I mean, right now we're having this great conversation. This is a perfect way to start off my morning. But you, I assume, are sitting in an empty room by yourself in fabulous lighting. I am doing the same. I'm sitting in a room by myself with my 2 dogs, and it feels weird. It absolutely feels strange if you're not used to being on camera. I know LaVonna Roth is a good friend of yours, and when she was on our daily drop-in, she shared a lot of different tips and tricks about how, you're really looking into the camera to make people feel like you're speaking to them. Yes, it's a different type of world than we were in as educators, but you have to go do it anyway. Like, it does feel uncomfortable. It's very strange, but We got to figure it out. We got to power through. So don't be so nervous that you hold yourself back from these really important moments that your students are going to appreciate the connection for. So, this kind of goes, it connects to your book because you do a lot of speaking to districts. You go in and a lot of motivational elements, but also some really tactical takeaways for teachers. And wanting to make learning relevant is something that I know you're really passionate about. Have you been able to support teachers not only in technology and kind of moving from survival mode to being proactive with our future support for students, but in making their instruction relevant as well?
Yeah, it's something that we're looking at with next steps because it really has been with the city district. It is a large district, so that's been a huge undertaking. So I'm also I do a lot of work with PBL. So we're looking at frameworks where people can do more mini PBLs with students and how we can get that going with remote teaching and learning. There's so many things that you have to consider because we don't all have the same resources available. So it's really looking at what can be a framework that we can be using. And we have a lot of that already created so that students can identify some relevant problems and take action. And then there's a lot of opportunities too with service learning. So we talk a lot about social emotional learning and how that fits right now. And one of the things is that when kids engage in opportunities such as service learning, looking at what they can do for others. Now, of course, our kids can't, in most places, just go out in the community and do anything like that, any community service type work. But service learning can be anything, especially at the younger ages. It can be reading to an even younger sibling. It can be helping around the house, but helping them develop projects and where can they lend a hand, because it also develops a sense of purpose. And I think a lot of our kids right now, when they're out of school, even though they may be doing some remote teaching and learning online, they don't have that same sense of purpose that they may have had in the classroom. We all know that sometimes students run errands for us because we know that they have the need to move, or we know they need to feel like they have a job to do. And at home, they may not be getting those experiences. So thinking about how we can still provide those opportunities for them remotely is really important. So we're looking at all of those things, but even maker education, this is a perfect time. Same thing with working on mini passion projects. This is a great time for kids to be able to even step back and think about, what am I interested in? Because a lot of times kids know kind of what they're interested in, but they don't know what they're passionate about at this age. So it all begins with, what am I interested in first? And if we can as educators help our kids take time to identify what they're interested in and build off of that, we can develop some passions, and that automatically impacts that intrinsic motivation, which is so important.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. You were getting a slew of comments from all over, from Facebook, Twitter. Everyone's commenting, even on YouTube. Alex, Andrea, Lindsay, Brian, they're all just jumping in, really talking about how much value you're providing right now. And there's been some conversation right now talking about how relevance is often overlooked, but it really, really matters. If I wanted to do something with my students today, let's say, my classes technically don't start until 8:45. If I wanted to offer an experience for my students right now to maybe explore what they're passionate about, maybe they're not sure, so I might need to give them some sort of starter question to kind of start the ball rolling in that conversation. What could I, ask my students to spark some interest to see what they're most passionate about, to then hopefully eventually get to the point where maybe they're solving a problem like student service leadership?
Well, and I think it really begins with knowing the age that you're working with. So for me, I would probably create something like a Google form or a Microsoft form that gives them like a survey of sorts to be able to go through what are some things they're interested in. And so as the teacher, I'd want to be able to provide those types of things that I think that I can anticipate. So some kids might be interested in creating games or playing games. It might be video gaming. Some kids might be interested in cooking. But then there could also be a spot for other, because there might be things that we don't think of. So I'd begin with that and just understanding what some of their interests are. One of the things that one tool that I use a lot is Wakelet. And so I use Wakelet as a way to be able to give kids a safe way to be able to explore deeper. So I would probably then take those surveys and look at where is the crossover of what student interests have. So maybe I have quite a few students who had something to do with baking or cooking. So I would then, as a teacher, create a Wakelet of resources that they could go to and visit and research, and then that would be their Wakelet. So it's also differentiating based on the interest. It does sound like a lot of work, but believe me, it's if you get used to using Wakelet and adding resources to it, it's very easy to use. And you'll find that a lot of times with the ages that you work, you'll have kids that do land in similar territory, if you will, of what their interests are, so they can be able to use that. And then I would create an outline of what they can do for when it comes to just researching some of their interests, but also making it applicable. So again, I'm going to go back to the idea of if kids are interested in baking or cooking, what's something that they could create? Could they invent their own recipe? Could they follow a recipe? And I even think it goes with, I think about my kids and video games. My youngest right now is very into playing video games, and I love his art teacher. One of the assignments was to create a new video game cover. So then a next step would be, well, now let's create, what would that video game look like? And I think that there's ways that can be done too. There's so many great technology tools, even using Google Slides to be able to insert different images. And, it's just, it would be a neat way to be able to get the kids engaged in things that they're interested in. But we have to remember that even though it might not be directly tied to our curriculum, you can absolutely always consider what standards do connect to what you're doing. And actually, when it comes to lesson design, if I can go just a little bit further in the classroom, especially doing this, I would absolutely be, well, even if I was going to continue with remote teaching and learning, I would absolutely work backwards with what are my standards that I want to hit on? And then what ultimately do I want students to learn? Because you can still then go back and do all the surveys and the passion project build out, but make sure that as the teacher, you're interweaving activities that really hit on those content standards. So
absolutely. I know it's so important. I mean, you are totally speaking my language. Even Adam just threw in a comment, and so did Alex, just saying like, oh, you are absolutely sharing information that resonates with them. It's funny for the educators here that use the Teach Further model, which we do some training on. It's all about, teachers designing themed internships that allow their students to see the relevancy of the content before actually learning the content itself. And we talk to teachers all the time about how finding the relevancy in your content might come from your background knowledge in knowing a business or community organization that uses that skill. But it also should come from surveying your students, learning about what they are interested in, because your content, I'm sure, is found in some of those interests as well. So trying to utilize your students' passions to help you design engaging lessons is so, so, so important. And I like how you kind of gave two different examples. One was where students are kind of exploring their passions maybe separate from the content, and the other is when their passions are integrated within the content. So no matter what type of educator you are, you have a starting point right now that you can do something that supports your students, whether it be integrated in the content or not, where they're exploring an idea that they're passionate about, which is a great opportunity for students to learn throughout their day and maybe accomplish a goal or something along those lines.
Yeah. And I think, going back to my experiences as even working in the classroom, that when our kids are really interested in what they're doing and they develop a love of learning, what we also see is that kids tune in better to what we need them to do at different times. So the more autonomy you provide and when you empower them, they feel like they have that sense of control. And then you don't end up with so many children who, and we all know that the case is that there are some kids who vie for that control because they want to feel like they're in charge of their day. And that's where sometimes negative behaviors can start from. So the more autonomy and empowerment we can provide, then we do see our kids be able to take ownership because they're more motivated. And so like you said, yes, there's opportunities for kids to be able to dive into things that they're passionate about. But then, of course, there's things that are linked with learning that we know that they have to also work through. But there's a beautiful way that you can combine those and kind of marry that together to really have more bang for your buck with your students.
Yes, I love Alex just said we need to add student interests as a first step in the backwards design. And I think that that's a really great element, as we're talking about best practice and utilizing looking at a standards and using the backwards design to scaffold information to support students' mastery. I love the idea of incorporating student interest because that is a huge part of how we earn that buy-in and students can actually take ownership over the experience as well. So That's so wonderful. We've shared so many tips and tricks right now. I do want to remind everybody that we are in our last week of our daily drop-ins. Our last episode of our daily drop-in will be Friday. These are stored in YouTube. You can catch all the full videos, all the audios there. And also, don't forget that while we have been able to this week stream in multiple places, you can also catch the audio as a bonus episode of Teach Better Talk podcast, which you can subscribe to and catch these elements as well. You have shared so many different ideas outside of, obviously, we were discussing your book a little bit, but also just great tech resources and stuff. If people wanted to stay connected to you, and I know that we have other things I want to talk about today before we conclude, how can people kind of connect directly with you? Is there maybe a website or a social media handle that they can make sure that they are connected with you past, obviously, our daily drop-in?
Absolutely. Well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So if you just, in my website is elizabethbostwick.com. So that's pretty easy. And then you can find all my social media links right through there. So you can find those. And I always love connecting people. LinkedIn too, actually. So, so yeah, lots of different places. I tend to be on Facebook. I think Facebook and Twitter more frequently, but definitely available everywhere.
Yeah, I see you sharing so much on Twitter and Facebook. And I know that you still have elements that you're doing to continue to support teachers. So it's not like it's ending. Whatever you might find now that you're sharing, you might, shift and support teachers in a new way next week. And so definitely staying connected is a huge asset to not only building your PLN, but hopefully continuously getting new ideas, which is so wonderful. I recently had the opportunity to preview a book that I think you also had the opportunity to preview. Do you mind if we talk about award-winning culture for a second?
No, let's do it. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about it.
I know. So Hans Appel, for those of you who may not be connected to Hans, he is a member of the Teach Better team and a member of the Teach Better Speaking Network. And he is publishing an amazing book that's coming out on Friday. We've actually gone live twice this week, once just to celebrate. And then yesterday we were live with Hans to have a sneak peek of the book, talk a little bit about why he wrote the book, his passion for the book. And he'll actually be live later this evening with Jeff Gargas to give a few more spoilers. But Award-Winning Culture is a brand new book that's coming out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble this Friday that is currently available for pre-order that you and I both got a sneak peek of. Tell me your thoughts. What do you think? Why should people check it out?
Well, I'll tell you, Ray, when I was able to preview that, the very beginning of it just captures you right away. Hans does such a great job of just sharing the why and reaching the heart of teachers of why we are doing what we're doing, right? And really it comes down to that we're connecting with people, we are supporting learners in their journey, and you don't know what baggage they're coming into and what they're feeling, and the vast importance of the fact that when we are there and when we greet them, we might be the best part of their day, right? What we're able to provide. And even during remote teaching and learning. So even if we can't be face-to-face with our students, sometimes the connections that we have, that's why those face-to-face connections, even if it's a video, are so important. But in addition to that, not only does he hit on the why, but there are so many practical, tried and true strategies that he shares throughout that really brings it together so that anybody can take his book and implement amazing strategies to just create great change in their classrooms.
And I'm sure you've seen this because I know that you did this extremely well in your book, and I've seen it done very well by other authors, is that it's just not about this overarching idea of what, a philosophy that you should share or a mindset, but really those tactical takeaways that even if it's late at night and you just flip through a chapter or two, you really have something that you're going to be able to take from that book and implement tomorrow. And I think that that's going to be extremely relevant, not only for our current times with remote learning, but even as we transition out of remote learning and hopefully back to some sort of new normal. We really do need to be focusing on the culture of our learning environment. I think this book is going to really help with that stuff.
I do. And I think that anytime teachers can have a book, and especially as a teacher myself, where you can open up to a certain chapter that you may have put a sticky in, and you could be like, okay, what was that strategy again? Or what were those tips? And be able to go back to that and then say, okay, I'm going to directly implement these ones, or I'm going to take this today, I think is so helpful.
Absolutely. And, for those of you that are listening right now who may not be connected to the Apple team, Hans and Jennifer are doing incredible things. I joke with them all the time. They're like my favorite power couple, that they are both doing so many things with award-winning culture. And while I'm so thrilled the book is coming out Friday, Award-Winning Culture is more than just a book. I mean, they just launched their brand new podcast last week. They launched 10 episodes that you can kind of binge on, those really quick episodes that are so wonderful. They actually have since published an 11th episode, and the 12th episode comes out this weekend. So you can search that wherever you listen to podcasts, but you can also find it under our Teach Better podcasting network. So they're doing incredible things there, sharing their insight. They also at awardwinningculture.com have blogs and just a lot of tips and tricks. And they're doing, I know that this is just so exciting, they're doing a free book study on the award-winning culture book coming out Friday. So if you are pre-ordering it or thinking about catching that book, you can not only enjoy it, but hopefully really take part in a discussion around how to utilize the book. Liz, I'm sure you have participated in a book study before. Why do you feel like a book study may be the right choice for a teacher who is picking up a new book?
Well, book studies, what I love about it is that instead of just reading it, and I am a big sticky note user, so I can read a book and do the sticky notes. But for me, it is about interacting and engaging in discussions. And so when you have the questions and you have a group being able to talk about a topic or a strategy that you might be reading in the book, and then people build on that and talk about their own experiences, I think it's just so much more powerful. So book studies are always a great way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like Hans actually kind of sent in a little secret during our live yesterday, which, by the way, I'm sure is saved everywhere. We streamed on Twitter, YouTube, and then both places on Facebook. So you can go catch the live video Hans and I did last night. But he was saying that while there is a full book study that's free for teachers that you could do with your teaching team or some sort of group in your district, he's also thinking about doing a live book study. So if you don't have necessarily somebody that wants to do it with you, if you don't have a group already formed, you could utilize your PLN and host it virtually with the author. So Hans will be giving out more details on that. Liz, I'm sure that your book is on the way because of your connection with Hans. I'm confident that you're going to have your hands on that book soon, but we are doing a book giveaway, a 5-book giveaway. So I hope that everyone listening right now is able to participate in that. So you can also make sure that, you not only pre-ordered the book, so you hopefully have a copy there, but maybe you can win a signed copy as well as the book comes out on Friday. Alex is jumping in saying, have you color-coded sticky notes, or do you just use whatever sticky is available?
I am a color-coded kind of girl. Yep. I have got all different colors, and yes, no, I'm totally color-coded.
That's so great. Liz, having an idea of what award-winning culture looks like, is there anything that you kind of want to give teachers in terms of what it was, maybe a takeaway that you took from the book that you hope they also, as they get their hands on the book, take away?
I think one of my biggest takeaways is just to remember the impact that you have. I work with a lot of teachers, just from the time I started to even today, where I think it's so easy to get lost in the mandates and the demands of the day, that it's easy to kind of focus on, oh my gosh, I've got this to do and that to do, and you've got this major to-do list. And I think one of my major takeaways is to remember to slow down and just keep in mind that culture is everything. If you don't have the culture for learning in the classroom, and you don't have a culture where kids feel safe and comfortable to share, then they're certainly not going to think more deeply. They're not going to self-regulate as well. And we're certainly not going to get to the point where we can think innovatively. So we need to be able to create that culture before anything else, and just remembering the impact that you have on children every time you work with them.
Oh, so important, so powerful. So I know that if you are around, especially in the Teach Better Team family, especially participating in the Daily Drop-In, I hope you choose to go check out Hans' Apple new book, which you can snag for pre-order over on Amazon. It's called Award-Winning Culture, and it comes out on Friday. So you're going to be able to have access to it. Hopefully it'll be in your Amazon shopping cart, and you'll have that all set up so you can get the book. Hans will be joining us for a Daily Drop-In on Friday morning, which will be so early for him because he is Pacific Standard Time. So he is going to be a little sleepy, but that will be the day that the book is coming out. He's going to join our Daily Drop-In, and we're going to be able to celebrate his new book launch and also give away that 5-book giveaway, which is so exciting. So I hope that you guys enter to win. It's very easy. You just need to answer one question using the hashtag #TeachBetter and the hashtag award-winning culture. And the question that we've been sharing out that we're looking for you to answer is how whole child education fosters joy. And he spoke yesterday in our live video about how joy was really specific in the way that he chose that, because he feels like joy is not just an immediate feeling, but really a long-lasting feeling that we want to make sure exists. So congratulations to Hans. We do want to make sure we give him all the celebrations and the shout outs. We're so excited for you. As we kind of conclude our time together, we've been live for about 34 minutes, just talking shop about education. Liz, you've done so much to support educators outside of Hans' book and also the things that we've mentioned now. Would you mind telling us if you wanted teachers to take one takeaway from maybe your book or just the work that you're doing, what do you want educators to keep in mind as they start their day this morning?
Okay, so boy, there's lots of things that want people to keep in mind. Yeah. So I think I again that it all goes back to that culture and relationships, number one, and number two, looking at remembering the importance of not just assigning work, but empowering learners to identify what their strengths and interests and passions are and how they can leverage those. And then also, how do we integrate technology so that kids can be creative in how they demonstrate their thinking and really set them up for success. So just be thinking about that always culture first, but empowering and then creating authentic learning opportunities where kids can also demonstrate creativity.
So good. So good. I did see that somebody asked again, can I repeat those hashtags? Yes, the hashtags we're using this week is hashtag #TeachBetter and hashtag award-winning culture, which is the title of Hans' book. Would you mind telling us where we can snag your book as well? Because I think that this is the perfect time, especially entering into the summer, for teachers to find 2 or 3 books to kind of take a deeper dive into. And then I know that you have a hashtag that you also share, so educators can go on their favorite social media platforms, search that hashtag, and see what conversations people are having.
Sure. So you can find Take the Leap. And again, just real quick, that acronym is about creating that luminous culture, empowering learning. The A is for authenticity in the classroom, and then the P is for potential, so reaching our full potential. So you can find Take the Leap, Ignite a Culture of Innovation on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And now the hashtag is a little bit different. I created the hashtag of Leap Effect. First of all, Take the Leap was already taken. So I did Leap Effect because it really is what we're doing in the classroom is all about joining hands and taking the leap together. We're creating that leap effect in schools to make significant change and make an impact on what it is that we're doing with students.
Oh, God, look at these 2 awesome books, 2 very different topics that are really important in education. One dedicated to bringing relevancy into the classroom, Taking the Leap, and then the other focused on culture. These 2 books are going to work very well together, and they're by 2 incredible authors. We're all friends. So go check them out. And, whether you choose to participate in a book study or explore on your own with a lot of colored sticky notes, we just hope that you guys all find some fun resources to learn and continue to grow, because even though we are supporting students, we are also learners ourselves. So continue to push yourself and think out of the box and be active in your learning, just like we ask our own students to. So I love it. Liz, thank you so much for joining us. This was such a blessing being able to have you on our daily drop-in this morning. I do want to make sure that people can stay connected to you. I know we shared your information earlier in the video, but would you mind just reminding us where can people stay connected to you specifically?
Absolutely. You can find my website at elizabethbostwick.com. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and that's at Elisa Bostwick. So you can connect with me just about anywhere, and I think you'll find it. And feel free to reach out anytime. I love connecting with people and just hearing about your journey too.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you. And for everybody who's listening, we will see you later tonight at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, where Hans Apple is going to join Jeff Gargas, and we're going to be live streaming on all these platforms again, talking about the book giveaway, and maybe sharing some quick tips and secrets that you should keep an eye out for. Don't forget to join us for Mastery Chat on Thursday. And then Friday is a big day. We have the book launch, we have our last daily drop-in, and we have a Q&A with Kevin Butler for our free teacher webinar series we have going on, all dedicated to engaging learners. So no matter where you are in your learning journey as an educator, there is so much going on. Please make sure you stay connected, and we are here to support you. Liz, thank you again for everything. We so appreciate all the work you do.
Oh, thank you, Ray. This has been fantastic. I've just loved connecting here. So this has been awesome.
So good. All right, for everyone, have a wonderful morning. See you later.